Are you interested in understanding the basics of business development? Or are you interested in honing your skills in workplace conflict management and conflict resolution? Or you want to understand the power of strategic vision and thinking and how to build an effective team to help you to achieve your organization's goal? I am Joy Onyesoh, and I invite you to join me at the 5th edition of the She Speaks Summit happening in Lagos, and the theme is Keep Moving. This summit is for entrepreneurs, coaches, professionals, leaders, authors, trainers, and individuals who want to create an impact while building a legacy. The early bird registration is on, and you can use the details on your screen to register. See you in Lagos. Hello, my name is Joy Onyesoh, and I'm really excited to invite you to take opportunity of our Easter sales that is coming up on the 11th of April through to the 13th of April, 72-hour sales. Now, we're running a sale on the She Speaks Summit happening in Lagos, Nigeria on the theme Keep Moving. You know what? We have an amazing discount for the VIP ticket. Now, the early bird VIP ticket is going on right now for 120,000 naira. But you know what? For the Easter sales, we're giving a big slash from 120,000 to 85,000 naira. Yes, you heard me right. 85,000 naira for 72 hours. Payment validates your seat. So hurry now. Use the details on the screen to make your payment. Remember, payment validates your seat. I look forward to seeing you in Lagos, Nigeria. Hey, good evening. Oh my goodness. If you've not had technical glitches when you're running an online program that you haven't started, I was like, oh my God, Uche, I can't get to it. I'm so happy that finally this has started. Thank you so much for your patience and for staying in. Good evening. Good evening. A very happy Good Friday to everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Friday Night Hangout. I feel so blessed to have you in my tribe. And tonight we're going to be continuing our conversations on women's health and wellness. I can see Hallie there and some others here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining in. Now, if you have a friend that is not here, a tribe member that is not here, please nudge them on and tell them we've started the Friday Night Hangout and we're here live, because I want us to have a very robust conversation. Tonight, we're going to be talking on the impact of domestic violence on women's health. The impact of domestic violence on women's health. So, before we go deep into our conversation tonight, as usual, I always like to know how your week has been. So, I want to see it in the chat box. Tell me how your week has been. And I want to see your TGIF, first of all. Put in your TGIF before you tell me how your week went. Yeah? TGIF, thank you so much, my sister Holiday, for the TGIF. It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure to see you here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, this conversation is very important because of the recent happenings. If you've been following the thread, blissful week, oh, great. I'm happy to know that you had a blissful week. I had a hectic week. And so I'm happy for this holiday. And I'm being very intentional to catch some rest for the next couple of days. Yes, so I hope you take out time to rest as well. Yes, great. Now, we're going to be having conversation tonight. I know last week we said we are going to continue our conversation on women's sexual health, and in particular, we're going to be looking at love languages and behaviors. But we had to reschedule because of the recent happenings, and we've rescheduled that conversation. So tonight, we're going to be having conversation on the impact of domestic violence on women's health. And we're going to look at some of the factors that predisposes one to being a perpetrator of domestic violence. We're also going to look at what domestic violence is. And then we're going to look at the health impact of domestic violence on women. And we're going to finally wrap up the conversation on what actions we can take. I'm a strong, strong advocate for action. It's not just enough to get aware on any issue. It's important to get committed and take action. That's how change happens. Change begins to happen when we inform ourselves and then we get committed into taking actions. So I do hope that from our conversation tonight, you'll be leaving one or two things, nuggets, and then actions you can take to support survivors of domestic violence, also to protect yourself from domestic violence. Because the truth is, there are always red flags. There are always red flags. Domestic violence doesn't just happen overnight. So let's go into what really is domestic violence. Now, domestic violence is also known as intimate partner violence. So, in some settings, it's known as intimate partner violence. And this is a violence that happens in the domestic setting. This could be between partners, between spouses. It happens in a domestic setting. And that's why it has the name domestic violence. It happens in an intimate setting. Good evening, goodness. Good evening, confidence. How are you? Let me see your TGIF. Thank you so much. And also, tell me how your week has been. This is Friday. This is Friday, and it's Good Friday. It's a reflective time for everyone, especially Christians. Yeah, good evening, confidence. So, yes, intimate partner violence, exactly. Thank you so much, my sister Holiday. Hey, see my sis Goze. Thank God it's Friday. Thank you for joining in. Thank you so much. So it's also known as intimate partner violence, IPV. My weekend to rest. Exactly. Same here. Same here. Same here. I just said a little bit earlier that I'm very intentional about resting this weekend. So I also hope that most of us can take that time out to rest. I know it's more challenging for some than others, yeah? And tonight we're going to be talking about the impact of domestic violence on women's health. Now, I said domestic violence is also known as intimate partner violence. There's a type of violence that happens within the setting, and it takes different forms. It could be sexual violence, it could be physical violence, it could be economic violence, it could be psychological violence, it could be um, reproductive violence. So there are a number of violence that happen in the domestic setting. And one thing I have seen from experience is that oftentimes the different types of violence intersect. So where you would find emotional violence, most likely there may be a form of economic violence or sexual violence or um, economic violence. So you find out that it intersects. Now, it's very important in the light of what is happening. It's as if the social media has gone, you know, has exploded with a lot of women speaking out, taking action, and calling their spouses out or their partners out. Now, one of the things we've learned from the late Osinachi's death is that domestic violence is a reality. Oftentimes, it's called an invisible crime. And you know why? Because it's shrouded in a lot of shame and secrecy. Women don't want to speak out. It's also important that at this point, I mention that domestic violence is not just women that face domestic violence. Men also do face domestic violence. But data suggests that 1 in 4 women would face a form of domestic violence in her lifetime globally. And also, 85% of domestic violence is experienced by women. And that is why you see that there's a whole lot of attention given to domestic violence that's experienced by women. But that is not to say that we don't have men who experience domestic violence. I hope that this clears the air because a number of persons have asked me, why do we just keep talking about domestic violence experienced by women when we do know that men also experience domestic violence? And that's my response. Men experience domestic violence, and when they do experience it, we need to support and give them the same kind of help that would give to women. But the data suggests that 5% of women, of domestic violence survivors or victims, are women. And that's why the emphasis is on women. All right. Okay. And secondly, for me, personally, um, my passion, my attention, my focus is on women and women's rights. So you find me talking a lot about women and women's rights because that's where my passion lies, to support women, to encourage women, to hold women's hands as they pass through the storm. Now, we've talked about what domestic violence is. We've also talked about the different forms of domestic violence. And I want us to know tonight that there are a number of factors that could, could, lead to intimate partner violence. It's a mix of individual traits, individual factors, relationship factor, society factor, and also community factor. Is a mix. And it's important that we learn how to identify the red flags because domestic violence doesn't just happen immediately, it's a build up. There are actually three phases of domestic violence. When we look at the pattern in which domestic violence happens, there are usually three phases to domestic violence. The first phase is what I call the tension building phase. This is where the initial disagreement starts, the conflict starts brewing, and then it could be from things like not paying school fees, not dropping enough money in the house for upkeep, um, asking the woman not to see her family or her friends, trying to gag her, not allowing her to have a voice in the family. So it could start from all this kind of things, like trying to also, you know, control what she wears. We have some spouse who would want to actually control what you wear. I don't like you wearing long gown. You have to wear mini. I don't like you wearing mini. You have to wear long gown. I don't like this hair. You have to carry short hair. You have to make your hair. I don't want to be born. So there's a lot of things. Now, it's not wrong if your spouse or your partner will tell you what they prefer and how they like you to look, but there should be bodily autonomy. You have the right to decide what you want to do with your body, what you want to wear, as long as it's your business, and it shouldn't be a ground for violence. These are things that could be managed. These are conversations that you could have, in a very, very nice, positive atmosphere. It shouldn't be a breeding ground for violence. But sadly, it becomes a breeding ground for violence. Now, in domestic violence, the key things I want us to understand is that there are two things. It's all about power and control. Most times, it's all about power and control. Power because you want to show that you're the man. What I say happens. Control, you want to have total control of an adult human being or any human being. You want to have a say, you want to control, you don't want to give them that room to be themselves. So wherever you find violence happening, look out there, look at the power dynamics, and also look out for control tendencies, right? Now, I said earlier on that there's a mix of trigger factors for one becoming a perpetrator of domestic violence. The first one is individual traits. Now, let's look at this. If an individual has low self-esteem, has low education, low income, emotional instability, anger issues, I'm not saying the person would definitely be a perpetrator of violence, but these are some of the trigger factors. Because then because you're battling with complex issues, you want to control, you want to exert power, you want to show and prove it. There's always that need to prove oneself, there's always that need to exert control, right? So it's very important that you notice that when you're dating, and that's the essence of dating, there's always red flags. But oftentimes we ignore the red flags. And mark you, it could be both ways. It could be the woman displaying these tendencies or the man displaying that tendencies. It could be both ways. Because we also have women who go out to fight other women that they call side chicks. they, in quotes, they call them side chicks, and they take it upon themselves to go fighting and inflicting physical harm on such women. It is a no-no. Violence is violence. I'm always an advocate for non-violence. You can't solve a violent situation by, you know, also reacting violently. It doesn't solve the situation. The most important thing is learning how to take yourself away from that situation. Now, when we look at relationship factors, look at the person's family. What kind of family is he or she from? What kind of relationship do they have? If you look at some of the tendencies, they are most times from dysfunctional families. The person is not doesn't have close friends. The person has relationship issues, series of relationship issues. You know, that is also an indicator. Now we also look at the community where the person stays and where the person was socialized. When you live in a community where there's crime and violence, crime goes in tandem with violence, oftentimes. So when one lives in a high crime area, you will also find out there is also a high violence in that community. Now, men who have experienced violence as a child are more prone to, be perpetrators of violence because they're enacting what they have watched. So it takes a lot of counseling, it takes a lot of intentionality, professional help to move such a child away from becoming a perpetrator in the future. Now, if we also have an adult who grew up in a low income community, low education community, then you find a mix of all this. So when you have those individual factors, relationship factors, community factors, when you have all of them together, that's disaster waiting to happen if it is not, addressed intentionally. Now, this is not to say that everyone who has experienced all these factors I talked about will become perpetrator of violence. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But these are some of the predisposing factors. Now, what really makes a woman, this has been a key question on our lips. Why would a woman stay in an abusive relationship? Why would a woman know that she sees all the red flags and she stays in an abusive relationship? Now, one of the key things that makes a woman stay in an abusive relationship is low self-esteem, low mental capacity, fear of being alone, fear of what people will say, lack of trusted support system, inadequate economic security, lack of a safe place or shelter to stay, and then the woman will just keep staying there. Societal pressures. So before we go judging, let's also be aware that a number of these things play out. Some women honestly don't have anywhere to go if they leave the abusive home. Just take, for instance, someone who is abused says, "Oh, my sister, I want to come and stay in your house." With the way things are, by the time you keep the person 1 month, 2 months, you get tired, you start acting up. So these are some of the considerations these women put in place. And their family is a no-no. Their family is not an option for them. Not everyone has a supportive family that they can go back to. Exactly as Zima says, low self-esteem. Yes. Not everyone has a supportive family they can go back to. And then some women have also normalized pain because of their experiences, the way they were socialized. They've normalized pain. The pain is okay. And don't you forget that we live in a patriarchal society where men's rights are supreme. And from an early age, most women are groomed to please their husbands. Most women do not practice self love. And all this is also part of the low self esteem, low confidence level, not feeling worthy of love. And you just feel that you have to stay there. That if you leave there, nobody will love you. And that's why the woman stays put. Now, this is not to say that she hasn't identified those red flags. sometimes there is this erroneous belief. She feels he would love me so much that he will change. Or I will show him so much love that he would change. It comes with a lot with a lot of problems. Let's unpack it a little bit. Now an adult started off as a baby, and growing up, these adults imbibe certain values, build some characters, have developed certain habits. Habits are not easy to deconstruct if you're not intentional about it. And then this person has done this for years and become a full-fledged human being, an adult. And then one now thinks that someone that has grown and, socialized in all this habits, values, and all that you can now change the person. My dear, it's very erroneous of you to think about that. It's not possible. It won't work. An adult only changes when they understand and identify that they have issues and they are willing to work on themselves. It is not you that have the responsibility of working on them. This is why a lot of women get stuck, stay there, and then they pay the ultimate price. I love what Pastor Sarah said in her response to one of the videos she gave out. She said that when marriage vows are taken and it's said for better, for worse, the worst that is envisioned is external. The external struggles that come, where both of you are supposed to hold hands as a team and fight it. It's not the one that a man will inflict on you and you now end up paying the ultimate price. Exactly, my sister Holiday. It is to change an adult is very difficult. It's very difficult. Yes. Now, what are some of the impacts on a woman's health? One, high blood pressure. Hey, high blood pressure would become the order of the day because one, the woman will be traumatized, she'll be depressed, she'll be sad, and sometimes there's also this pressure from the spouse. The woman knows we've had a lot of incidents where a woman delivered through cesarean operation, and the doctor would say, "This is the last cesarean operation I would advise you to go through. You've had enough. Give your body time to heal, or just stop at this number." Or sometimes, even when you give birth vaginally, you may have gone through a lot of traumatic things, your womb and all, and the doctor will say, "You know what, this number of kids you have is enough." Medically, you become a high risk if you take in again. Now, because the man, there's this craze for male child in our society. There's because of this premium that is placed on male child in our society. It's also part of some of the stress or some of the violence women experience in their home. Children, lack of having children, or lack of having male child, or not having a male child. These are some of the issues that bring up some violence. And the man will say, "No, don't mind the doctor. What does he know? What does he know? Let's try again." And then the woman, against her will, against medical advice, will take him just because she wants to bear a son for her husband. And oftentimes, these women end up paying the ultimate price. End up paying the ultimate price. So this is really very important that we have this conversation. You have a right to say no. You have a right to go to your doctor and report. And that's why when you hear us and a lot of men say, it's important as a woman that you're financially independent. Now, no one is asking you to become financially independent to fight or struggle with your husband. No, not at all. If you're financially independent, statistics are proving that a family fares better when a woman is financially empowered because she contributes to the upkeep of the family. She contributes, she adds value. But at the same time, it becomes your protective factor because you can afford to make certain decisions. Like I said earlier on in the show, some women are afraid to leave an abusive relationship because they don't have the option of sorting themselves out or fending for themselves. And so they'll prefer to stay in that abusive relationship. So that's why you, as a woman, you have two hands, you have two legs, you have a brain that is functional. God has uniquely blessed you. God has uniquely blessed you, and God has given you a purpose. You need to ride with that purpose. You need to be useful to yourself and to the society. Not all job requires you to go out of the home. Some women have genuine concerns. They say, yes, I want to stay home and take care of my kids. Valid. Very valid. I also want to tell you tonight that there are a lot of jobs and a lot of things you can do from the home. Look at the options and look at what you're good at. Build on your skills. But it's important that as an adult woman, you earn your own income. Now, I'm not saying that earning your own income prevents you or protects you from abuse. No. Because even financially dependent women get abused. Sometimes theirs is even worse. Their financial independence brings the abuse. And so if a woman is earning more than the husband, then if he has lower income than the wife, if he has lower educational status, if he has self-confidence issue, he attacks her. Because he feels less of a human being because his wife is progressive. He cannot handle it. He cannot handle his wife's success. So he feels that the best way to do is to react and pull her down. We have a lot of women going through that form of violence. The more they grow, the more they progress, the more the attack and the abuse comes from their husband. And because people see them as a success, they are ashamed to talk about it. The statistics globally is not a joke. When it says 1 in 4 women, it means that is really very high and worrisome. So that woman you're looking out there, that woman you're speaking to may be going through one form of abuse or the other. But everyone is covering it because of what people will say. You, the victim or the survivor, becomes ashamed, and the perpetrator is left to do what he wants to do. It is time to take action. It is time to know the red flags. It is time to draw boundaries. You need to protect yourself. We're talking about some of the health impacts. Talked about depression, high blood pressure. Talked about premature birth. Some women, when they're pregnant, their husbands will beat them to the extent that they have to do an emergency CS on them, or they go into premature labor. So they have a preterm baby. Some women would be that the husband will beat them. In this part of our climb, we don't recognize marital rape. But it does happen. Some husbands forcefully have sexual intercourse with their wives to punish them. Maybe the man will be saying, oh, my honey, I'm not safe. And the man will say, what does that mean? Come here. He doesn't want to use any form of protection. What will happen on Wednesday pregnancy? And then he would now create a lot of issues for her. And maybe her body at that point in time is not even ready to carry such. There's a whole lot of domestic violence. This is something that is happening around us. Hello, Chizoba. Hello, PK Duchess. Thank God it's Friday. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I've also had a lot of people ask me, how can I support? How can I help? One of the things I would say is recognize the signs of an abused woman. Listen, it's a collective responsibility. We don't like to poke nose. We don't like to, but it's a collective responsibility. We're not asking you to tell the woman to leave. But if you're living in a compound and every night you hear, bah, 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 the woman is screaming and shouting, and you don't want to go in and save her, my dear, if anything happens to her and it kills her, you will not live with yourself. You'll feel guilty. So no one is saying go in. You can call for help. You can help her call for help. But we shouldn't turn a blind eye when we see a woman or a sister in an abusive relationship. Some of the health impacts as well is the bodily harm that the women experience. Black eyes, swollen eyes, cut lips, wounds. It's crazy. Sometimes the men use very harmful objects to hit the women. Sometimes they flog these women like little children, as if they're flogging little children. You're not even meant to flog your children that way. That's the honest truth. So I don't think even animals, you can't even flog animals the way some of these men flog women. And you'll be wondering, where is all these things coming from? And that's why I talked about the three phase of domestic violence. We need to recognize it. The first phase is the tension building phase. The second one is the battery phase where the violence occurs. Then the third phase is the honeymoon phase. What do I mean by this? Now you have men when the tension, tension is high, you start exchanging words, or sometimes some women don't even talk. Some women don't even talk, and then it even irritates the man that you're not responding. The tension builds up, they start hitting you and all that. Then after the act, the man will come back and tell you, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me. And then he goes buying gifts for you. If he's a wealthy man, he buys a lot of things for you and say, do not tell anybody, do not talk, do not mention it. Please, I will change. And then for the next 1 or 2 or 3 days, it becomes so nice. The woman will forget. We women, sometimes we can be so loving to our own detriment. And then you think that is all over. After some days, he strikes again. So when you wonder why a woman stays in an abusive relationship, these are some of the reasons. The phases. The man gets brutal. He comes back, he begs. He gets so sweet. And she experiences a lot of, she says, wow, this is what a relationship ought to look like. And he will change. So that honeymoon stage in the violence circle, in the domestic violence circle, that honeymoon stage is what keeps a lot of women entrapped. So I say, okay, if he can't be this nice, it means that he has the capacity to change. I just need to be so more loving. I need to be more. You now place a lot of burden on yourself. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Abusive people are very manipulative. So true. Thank you so much. So true. Abusive people are very manipulative. They know what they are doing. They're very manipulative. And that honeymoon period, oh my goodness, you get carried away. All kinds of niceties that's happening. He comes back, he buys this, he calls you sweet names, so nice. And then you say, oh, this is what I love. This is what I saw when I chose him. This is what I saw when I married him. And then you will now, when he starts the abuse again, you will hold on and hang on to those nice honeymoon period. The circle of it keeps on happening, and the woman refuses to leave. This is not a time when we have to, condemn, judge. This is a time when we know that this woman needs help. One of the things that one can do is to build your skills in discerning and recognizing violence when it's red flags, first of all. Now, when you recognize red flags, you need to also build your skills to take a walk. It's not easy to take a walk from a relationship, let's be sincere as women. When you love someone, you genuinely love someone, it's difficult to walk. It's so good. We say talk is cheap. It's so easy to say leave, walk. Yeah. And that's why I keep saying it's not easy. It's not a walk in the park. It's not easy to just pick up your bag and leave. But you must realize that you are more important. Your life is sacrosanct. It should not be sacrificed on the altar of violence. So you need to take out time and build your skills to live. It's not something that happens overnight. Haven't you seen where you intercede in a case and the woman will come back, especially when it gets to the police, when it's a bad case. The woman will go back begging. plead that they should release the husband, and you become a bad person. It's a circle. So it's not easy. The woman is already sucked into it. So it's not easy for her mentally to process it and look after herself. So that's why it's important when you notice the red flags. If you've not married already, please take a walk. It's better. Say, shine your eyes well. It's better to leave. And then when you get married and you notice this flag, of course, I'm not saying when you notice, carry your bag and leave immediately. My sister, Madam Adenike, thank you so much. TGI, she says House of Joy. Yay. Welcome. It's not so easy to pack your bags and leave. We all say these things. So many women say, leave. They're also facing their own form of violence. We need to be sincere with ourselves. It's not easy. So let us address it. How do we prevent it? How do we protect ourselves? How can we live? Now, if you decide, my sister, thank God that Barrister Gozie is here and she's providing legal advice for women who are going through abuse in their homes. If you want to know the next steps, what to do, please contact her. And if you need a safe space to talk, please just DM me and I will make out time for us to just have that conversation so you can share. But it's important in all of this that you keep record, document what happened. He blows you, smashes you. You don't take a picture of yourself. You don't record the daytime, what happened. Listen, it's not you keeping. It's not you. It's not about you keeping record of the violence. It's not just about that. It's because you are building your case to live. That's the truth. A man that hits you once will hit you again and again. Once he crosses that line, raises his hand or uses an object to hit you, the tendency is he will do it again and again, except he seeks professional assistance. And because you cover him up, you hide it, how can he seek professional assistance? So how can he change? Good evening, Chinelo. Welcome. How can he seek professional assistance? How can he change? He needs professional help. Remember at the beginning of the program, I talked about the different factors that makes him predisposed to intimate partner violence. It's not what you can handle. You don't have the professional capacity to handle it. He needs to seek professional help. So if he's not willing to seek professional help, it's not your business. It's not your business to rehabilitate him, because you cannot. You just cannot do that. You need to learn how to love from afar. In the last 3 or 4 months, we've had a lot of news of women being battered to death by their husbands. A lot. Young couples. It's just. And it's so troublesome. It's so troublesome. So it's important that you recognize the red flags and know the steps to take. Seek for help. Speak out. You cannot keep quiet. It will not stop. It will only get worse. When he knows that he's not accountable to anybody, he has already taken control over you and is exerting power over you. So how is he going to stop? He will keep battering you. You hide it, he continues. You're enabling him. You become an enabler. And one of the things it does also is to drain you of your self-confidence. You see a fully grown woman who is smart and intelligent begins to second guess herself because the spouse has told her time and time again that she's not useful, that she's a fool, she's a goat. That makes the husband of a goat. They use, we're talking about different forms of violence, verbal abuse. Oh my goodness. And we keep making excuses. This is really a very heavy topic for me, honestly. But I said we must have this conversation. I started the conversation on the Facebook Live tonight, and I said we'll conclude it here today. It's a heavy conversation, but it is happening. We cannot keep pretending it's not happening. Violence is happening. The incident rate is increasing. Women are normalizing being abused, and men are normalizing being the abuser. It is not acceptable. One of the reasons where you see this happen is when you have weakness in the law, in the legal system, when you have weakness in economic and other social policies that do not provide safety for the women. This is what you see. This is what you see. We don't have a strong legal system. Yes, we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act that can be used, but even when you go into the system from the security sector, you see how they even, Madam, now your husband, go home, wait till I go settle in a quarrel. They taunt you sometimes because they've not they've not been trained appropriately. So it's a whole lot. Gender-based violence is real. Domestic violence is on the increase. And let's be candid, it's not, except we take action, it's not going to go away by itself. We can't wish it away. The children are even traumatized in the process. Yes, not only are the children traumatized in the process, the male children become predisposed to becoming violent in future. They become predisposed. And then the female child normalizes that pain and that abuse because she has experienced it with her mother and the mother took it. So she thinks that's the normal thing. So when she becomes abused, she thinks it's normal. So it's a whole lot of trauma. It's a circle of trauma. And if we don't take action, it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. We can't just wish it away. It's not going to go away if we don't take concrete action. So, what are some of the actions we can take? I want to see it in the chat box. I want to hear from you. Drop it in the chat box. You tell me, from what we have seen, what are some of other factors? There are two things I want to drop in the chat box. What are some of the factors you think that make women stay in an abusive relationship? And how do you think we can support better? I want to hear your opinion. Just drop it in the chat box. We're all learning. I want to see it in the chat box. Just drop it in the chat box. And if you're just joining us, thank you very much. Welcome in. We're having a conversation on the impact of domestic violence on women's health. We've mentioned some of the health challenges that women can go through, from premature um, delivery to post-trauma stress disorder to high blood pressure to depression, suicidal talk, low self-esteem, low confidence level. These are some of the things we've seen women go through, and some even lose their life in the process. Some even lose their life in the process. I think my network is very slow today. But I notice that sometimes after the program, I will see all the chats. But while here, I don't see most of the chats. Yeah. Okay, so use the chat box and put it in, and we'll move on to try to conclude the conversation. I hope you've picked up one or two things. And like I said when we started off, the key thing for us tonight is to be able to move beyond being aware, move beyond identifying to taking action. I want us to commit to taking action. Individual action, collective action. Okay. Madam Dedike says, speak out once it starts happening in your home. Yes. But we also know that women deal with a lot of, we have this culture of silence. Women are ashamed. I think some of the things, the shame, most women are ashamed that they'll say, even you too, your husband is a man beater. When they've been putting out a happy front, so they are ashamed to talk about it. How can we deal with shame? I want you to tell us. Please, how can we deal with shame? I want to get opinions. Put it in the chat box, please. How can we deal with shame? Chizoba says lack of finance is one of the reasons women in abusive marriages. Every woman needs her own means of income, no matter how small. Very true. Very, very true. Very, very true. Um, we need to get, that's what I talk about, being financially independent. But you know, we also said, please also let's know that financial independence does not protect you from an abusive man, but it gives you an opportunity to take a walk and look after yourself or your children if your life is threatened. So, what we are saying here is if you know that your life is threatened and that of your children, then that is when you need to leave, when there's a threat to life. Princess says most women stay because their parents won't have them back. True. So true. So true. Their parents would have them back. So I'm so happy we're mentioning some of the reasons. Now, what can we do? What can we do to support these women? What can we do to support our sisters? What can we do? I've talked about what the women need to do by themselves, building their mental capacity, investing in themselves, um, having a network of trusted support system. It mustn't be a large one, even if it's just so small, but one that you can trust with information and with other things that you need. So Princess says to deal with shame, women must learn to be confident enough to thrive on their own. Learn that you are not the first. I can't be the last to experience such. Amazing. I love this. I love this. I love this. Thank you so much. This is very practical. Very, very practical. You must build your confidence level. Like I said in the morning, I don't know how many of you watched my broadcast in the morning. I said, people will talk no matter what happens. People will talk. If you show your happy marriage, people say, she's just pretending to be happy. But will that stop you from showing your happy marriage if you want to? No. That's your truth. Now, if you're in an abusive relationship, people will still talk. So you need to close your ears and know that people will talk and be confident. Be very confident to deal with it. Yes? Be very confident. Don't feel um don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like a lesser human being. You're not the first. Christian has said it, you're not the first and you will not be the last. It is happening. It's a reality. And until we build our confidence to speak out, it won't stop. Once we start speaking out and shaming the trade. Oh, thank God. Network just stay stable. We have 4 minutes to wrap up. Yeah. Yes. When I, in any case, the shame thing is a psychological problem. You have to make a conscious effort to bring yourself out of it. Exactly. And because most times the women are also facing verbal abuse where they're told they're not good enough, they can't function, they can't do anything without the man, their self confidence goes pooh. So you need to make that conscious, the conscious effort that you need to make. Chizoba says to mitigate the shame, we can talk more about it like you're doing. We can also organize a campaign to encourage women to speak up and also create awareness to stop the stigmatization. Thank you so much, Chizoba. I was waiting for someone to mention this and I've seen it. If you're willing to join a campaign, the Friday Night Hangout campaign that is geared towards stopping domestic violence, raising awareness, stopping domestic violence, put it in the chat box, put it in the chat box, put it in the chat box, because one of the things I want us to do is also to take action, to have a campaign, to take action. Remember, I said in the morning when I posted it that we're going to take action. We're also going to have, it's also part of the movement building. It's also part of the movement building. We're going to dedicate time to raising awareness and to providing support for women to get to know and take action. Let's see. I'm in. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to see more hands. See more hands in the chat box. Tell me I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. I'm taking notes. We're going to reach out to you and give you more details. We want to make it a national campaign. The Friday Night Hangout is going to make it a national campaign, and we're counting on you to drive it. We're counting on you to drive. It's a collective campaign. We're counting on you to drive it, right? Thank you so much. Okay, I want to really appreciate everyone who tuned in tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is always a very heavy topic for me because each time I talk about domestic violence, I've worked with a lot of survivors, and it just is draining because you almost feel the pain your sister is going through. Thank you so much, Madam Nike. Thank you. She says I'm in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to contact you, set up a WhatsApp group to plan, and then we'll take it from there. I'm also going to publicize it, and more people want more people to join in. We want to make it a national campaign. So I hope we share this video. One of the things you can do is to share this video tonight. Let's share this video. Let's make it go wide. A lot of sisters would listen to this, be inspired, encouraged, and find the inspiration to do what needs to be done. Whether it is recognizing the red flags or it is walking away from a very toxic, life-threatening situation, or is seeking the professional help that is required, or building a support system, whatever action needs to be done, let's make sure that we do it. I want to leave you with this finally. Woman, you are more than enough. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to defend anything. And you don't need to defend, prove, or hide anything. You are worthy of love. You are an amazing and special human being. And no one can do you like you do yourself. So be bold and proud to do you and do you well. If you see anyone, a sister, facing domestic violence, we can support by raising awareness. We can support by being a resource. We can support by pointing out to where she can get assistance. You can help her know where she can get assistance, either professional help or whatsoever help she needs. You can point her in that direction. It's very important. Please do point her in that direction. I hope this has contributed to a larger conversation on domestic violence. And I want to thank you all for tuning in, for staying put, and for the contributions, your very tangible, concrete contributions tonight. And thank you for also indicating your interest to join a nationwide campaign on domestic violence. Thank you for indicating. We're going to be reaching out to you. We're going to agree on the time, date, and activities to be done. It's going to be in commemoration of our second year anniversary. One of the reasons why I created this platform is also to have strong support for women, to also be that platform where women can draw inspiration, where women would have a tribe that is supporting them and cheering them on. Also to raise consciousness on the issues affecting women and to take action on those issues. Like I would always say, we need more than just awareness, we need to take action. Thank you so much, Madam Halide, for indicating. We will be in touch. I already am so excited at the prospects of what is happening. It's going to be a national campaign, and we're going to really try and reach out to women, create awareness, take action, and provide resources that women need to beat this. You are more than enough. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I look forward to seeing you next week Friday. We continue our conversation, and I'll be in touch with all of you who indicated interest in participating in the campaign. Please do share this video. A sister might get inspired by listening to this video. Until we see next week Friday, from me to you is bye for now. Try and catch some rest this weekend, okay? I love you so much. And remain too focused to give up. I love you so much. Bye for now.
Oh, yeah, it's a Friday night.